Welcome back to Next Level Rides. In today's episode, we have a Mercedes, but not any Mercedes, C350. This one is broken, just got dumped off here with a tow truck, so stay tuned and I'll show you the carnage. It's pretty gross. So a bit of backstory. Eric had purchased this vehicle, and because we didn't know anything about the maintenance or the service, we had a bit of a squeak from the serpentine belt area. We changed the belt and one of the pulleys at the time, but you couldn't confirm which second pulley you needed without looking at it. So of course I ordered it online, it's a few days out, and I don't know, time happened and it never got changed. The result was somewhat catastrophic. So if you encounter this with an N54, you can almost certainly kiss your motor goodbye. But for Eric's, we have this spaghetti. So we have right here, this would be probably more of the spaghetti fusilli, whatever you want to call it. Angel hair. This webbed mess is the result of not changing the pulley. Looking at it first and foremost, you spin this pulley here, which is the water pump, and it's probably not going to show on the camera, but a bunch of junk fell out the pulley or in behind it. So in behind it is literally just a ridge. What we'll have to do is we'll have to bring over the compressor, blow it all out, but you can see way down there. All the dust is from the shredded belt, but this pulley here, good. Idler seems, that one's not that greatest, but it could be worse. But when you go up to here for the top idler, it's frozen solid, and what's worse is the entire back of the pulley is missing. I don't know where it went. It probably went on some sort of a holiday, but even right on the edge here, there's molten metal. It was slipping, spinning, caused havoc, and eventually broke, and you can see a little bit of damage here on the actual casing of the block. Where this piece is, I don't know, maybe it's gonna show up as we're digging around, but that's essentially what we're working with. So down here, alternator pulley, this one spins fine. We're gonna make sure these are all nice cleaned up. So you have your alternator, water pump, idler, second idler. This is the smooth one. Tensioner, AC, power steering, and crank at the bottom. We're gonna make sure everything's nice, clean. I'm gonna fight with this to get this one off. So if it's been welded that badly, I don't know if I'm gonna need to clean the post or if there's some damage hidden underneath, but the bearings are definitely shot. So I'm hoping I can take the bolt out and I don't have to do anything crazy with this pulley. But if it's not spinning, there's a good chance that this is now welded to that post. And if it's welded, I don't know what we're gonna do. But in the meantime, give it to me. I'm just gonna pull this apart. I'm gonna push this little tab down. Push this little tab down, and these should just pop out. Yeah, there, okay. Push it down, pop it out. I said pop it out, and then off the intake. Luckily for Eric, when the belt started whipping around, it didn't chop up this coolant hose. Looks like it smacked just a little bit there. And it doesn't look like there's too much carnage. You can see on the subframe where the belt was whipping around and caused some marks. So subframe marks, right over there is where it was whipping around. If you look at the actual fan itself, you can see some marks. It looks like something had smacked it. You see these scratches. Over here, there's some scratches, some over there. It's all kind of par for the course when it comes to a snapped belt. So when this let go on Eric, it was a very, very, very cold day. So assumingly the pulley had seized, and when he started it, he heard screeching and a bunch of noise. And of course, it wasn't just a matter of a cold start, the pulley seized up. What's ironic is when the tow truck driver dropped it off, the previous call he had was for a Mercedes of the same model and the same problem. So it's a good possibility that this is somewhat common. How to get away from this happening? Maintenance, I guess. The pulley is probably 200,000 kilometers. These are generally very reliable. I think it's just luck, if anything. Getting this bolt out, let's see here. Looks like an E12 Torx bolt. Now the bolt itself is coming out. Ooh. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm gonna show you as soon as I get this out. So the good news is the bolt came out with part of the pulley. The bad news is, oh, never mind, it's good news. So you can see right here that it's all chewed up. This isn't supposed to be anything like that. I'm gonna make sure that it's all clean. Maybe I'll run a microfiber, or not a microfiber, a Scotch-Brite around that to clean it up. Now what I was worried about was the remnants of the pulley being stuck on there, but I happened to poke it and it fell apart, so, okay. Crisis averted, we're good. And I just want to find that piece so I can show you guys. So here we have a piece of the plastic, and along with that, there's some melted plastic right on the end of this bearing. So you can see right there, this is gonna be pretty hard to get off. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, definitely molten plastic. But that's your bearing, and you can see inside the bearing there's nothing left. Nope, it's all just seized. So perfect example of a bearing failure. And this is why you want to change these. The plan of attack is going to be replacing this pulley here, which is the smooth lower pulley, and the one up here for the larger one. Again, I'm going to be cleaning this one up a little bit just because that looks really bad. I'm going to torque it to spec. I'm going to go with a microfiber and a Scotch-Brite in the grooves of these pulleys to make sure they're nice and clean. Other than that, I'll check tension on the tensioner and should be okay. This one here, we don't necessarily need to change it, but you can see where it's been rubbing. So there's a little bit just burnt onto the pulley itself. We can probably clean it up easy enough. This one's just an E-Torx, and what we'll do is we'll pull it off, we'll clean it up, and you can see the bearing is still good on this one. This one, not so much. Water pump is kind of in a league of its own. An alternator, that's direct to the actual alternator itself, so nothing to worry about there. We took off the pulley here, and I'm just going to show you the rubber. Now you don't need anything super crazy. You can just take a knife, clean it up. Of course, this is much easier than digging around in an engine bay. So just be gentle. You don't want to scratch the surface here, a little bit here. There's probably other ways of you doing this, but this is how I'm going to do it. So feel free for all of those that say I'm doing it wrong to let me know down in the comments, and then I can block you. Not actually, but. You see all the All right, we have a brand new Euro parts idler, I believe. This is for the upper one. It looks an awfully lot like that one. So maybe it's that one. Okay, well, second box from Euro Parts. If you can grab the part number, it should be a smaller one. Yep, there it is. This is the bad boy that broke. For here, this is quite literally just a backing plate. So although it doesn't do a whole lot here, when you go to tighten it, you put this little piece on and then it bottoms out onto it. Inside here, it will actually sit on the end of that hub. So you'll just need to wiggle it around to get it to fit. On the bolt itself, just a little bit of thread sealant. I'm gonna throw that on there. And this, interestingly enough, it's a grade 10.9 bolt, but it actually has a hex head, whereas the other one did not. Weird. We'll know as soon as we bottom it out. Give it a spin, you'll know if it's dead straight. 10 mil, Milwaukee. Give it a spin. You guys at home will see better than I can. From my angle, it looks straight. For now, we're just gonna give it a little snug. I'll torque it to spec, and we're gonna leave that one. On top of the alternator here, it's a good thing we went over it. You can see that there's an entire rib of molten rubber. So now I need to scrape it out while simultaneously spinning it. Oh, yeah, more spaghetti. Make sure you go over all the pulleys. This one's got some junk in it. Actually, it's so much that the pick isn't really helping, so I need to use a wire brush. I'm gonna go with the wire brush. And that is one clean pulley. Next up, we're gonna clean the tensioner one. So I have a little bit of brake clean on this here. You saw us scrape the rubber off. Nothing crazy, just wipe it with some brake clean and then chuck it back in. Snug it a little bit. That one's good. This one's weird. It's an encased bearing, but it's covered in a pulley that's covered in a bunch of oil. This is most important. You don't want any oil or grease on this, because if you have some on here, then it's going to go directly on the belt. And you don't want that. This one here is going to be E14. Threaded in by hand. Steel bolt into an aluminum block, so you always want to be a little bit careful. Now get in Milwaukee. Give it a little snug, give it a spin, and you can see it spins nice and flat. After you've Googled the torque spec, grab your trusty torque wrench and set it to the appropriate torque. Now we read anywhere roughly 35 Newton meters. So we're gonna set it to 35. First thing, we're gonna tighten the idler one, or for the tensioner. Did I just break my tool? How the does that even happen? Great. Okay, well, maybe I'll message Stanley and see if they can send me a replacement, because that kind of blows, especially when you're torquing something to spark plug tight. Now it's time to do the belt. It's time to do the belt. Apparently this is a Continental or a Gates belt. We have a diagram here, so I'm gonna just try and follow it and get this belt on. So we're going over the AC around the crank. So getting it 90% and then holding it here is what I'm gonna need to do. Because I don't know how to pin the belt or pin the tensioner, I need to find out which way it rotates. So get yourself a good old 17 millimeter and then give it a little bit of tension. Yeah, so it's this way. You can feel the spring is a little on the loose side. So I'll pull it as far as I can. And if somebody wants to hold a light for me, maybe. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna check to make sure the belt is on all the pulleys. So it's around the power steering, it's around the AC. Oh, my arm's stuck. All right, I'll let go. Ta-da. And all it took is basic hand tools, breaking your T27, so I can't work on my own engine. When you got the tensioner all sorted, what you want to make sure to do is double check it. So up and around here, this is the ribbed one. You can see where it's right against the side here. Double check that it's in there nice. You'll see the alternator one. Stick your finger in there, make sure that it's sitting dead straight. Same for the crank pulley here. The one here, this is the smooth one, but it does have the guides on either side, so you don't need to worry about that. Water pump looks good. I'm just gonna take a quick peek from above. Yep, that one is good. Now we're gonna move over here. This is the only one I'm kind of a little bit concerned with, and only concerned because this is the smooth one with no guide. So if you look, you can see where it's worn away from the previous belt. And if you make your way all the way up and around here, you wanna aim to have the belt right on the edge of that. So as long as the belt is dead center in this pulley, or on this pulley, you won't have an issue. On startup, it's possible, if it's not dead straight, that it walks either way. And the last thing I want is for that belt to walk off and have the exact same issue. Okay, moment of truth. We're gonna pull all the stuff off of it. We're gonna crack the door and we're gonna have Eric start it. Okay. Yeah, start it. We're gonna let it get off idle and then we're gonna give it a couple of revs. What I'm gonna do here is I'm just looking at it from a side. I'm just making sure that all the pulleys are running true. And what I mean is that they're flat. They're not wobbling outwards. Sometimes you could have a bad bearing. Sometimes the pulley itself is bad. Sometimes it could be bent. But this way you'll actually notice as it's spinning, if it's clean, if there's any issues, and if there's a vibration, it could eventually chuck a pulley. Give it a couple revs. Whoa. Couple more. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, shut it off. This light's been through hell. I'm sure at some point I'll tell you all about this, but I tell you, if there's a way that I could give a shout out to Mac Tools, hey Mac Tools, you want to sponsor a YouTuber? I would be greatly appreciative. Oh, it doesn't even sit straight anymore. Yeah, it holds the tensile strength of an E92 when you lower it off the quick jacks. I learned that the hard way. In closing, it really wasn't all that bad. I think Eric had some horseshoes up his backside, but you know what? If you can check in your chits once in a while, you're doing all right. What we're gonna finish with is we're gonna end up putting the cover back on. We're going to end up putting the 2 intakes back on, and everything on the front side looks pretty good. As always, feel free to like and subscribe. Let me know how I failed in the comment section. You know it's serious business when I get my hands actually dirty. But for now, we'll see you guys on the next one. I got a new present for myself because I'm gonna start doing some walnut blasting. So this is my 20-liter Cat industrial, made in China, probably compressor. How do I turn this on? Did it just seize the motor? It was used. I bought it on Marketplace. I should have tested it. It works. Should I move this down a bit so my beard's not...
Don't do this, I'll be fine.
I'm gonna go to HR about you.
Hi, I'm HR.
You are HR. Oh, you are HR. Am I fired?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.